Hello and welcome to the Motivated by Love podcast, a podcast designed to help LDS young adults navigate relationship anxiety and relationship OCD. I'm your host, Chrisenia, and I am so excited to be with you today. I'm so excited to teach you about this tool that really changed my life. And I am confident that understanding it and just bringing so much awareness to what's going on in your brain will really help you get out of these anxious OCD cycles. Really, my purpose today is just to teach you about what's going on in your brain and to bring awareness to it. Because what we're not aware of, we can't change. So today I'm going to talk to you about the urge cycle. And this is also known as the OCD cycle. I'm just going to use different words, but it's so similar to the OCD cycle that you can look that up and learn more about it if you want to. I promise you, understanding this cycle and what's going on in your brain is going to be so freeing and so life-changing for you. A lot of the time, the things that we do to try to get rid of anxiety and get rid of these uncomfortable emotions that we have, like doubt or anxiety, like I said, the things we do to get rid of those feelings are actually perpetuating the cycle. And so if you want to be free from anxiety and free from OCD, you are going to want to listen to this episode. So without further ado, let me get into the urge cycle. So overall, the urge cycle is this cycle, like I said, that keeps us stuck in anxiety and stuck in OCD. It has three parts: the trigger, the urge, and the result. And I want to start with the trigger. So you're going about your day, everything is fine, and then all of a sudden something triggers you and you feel anxious. Now, this trigger could be internal or external. Internal means it's something that happens inside of you, so it could be a thought or a feeling you have. External means it could be something that happens outside of you. So let's start with external. An example of some external triggers might be your best friend saying that they went on a first date with this guy and they just know he's the one. Or maybe you hear your in-laws talk about how they got engaged after only 3 weeks, because when you know, you know. Now, when you hear people say things like that, it triggers anxiety, right? So some other examples of external triggers could be anything someone outside of you says that triggers anxiety. It could be your mom saying, well, does he have a good job? Are you sure you want to be with someone who still isn't sure what they want to do? Or it could be your sister saying, oh my gosh, I am just so in love with my boyfriend. I think he's the most attractive guy in the whole world. Those are examples of external triggers because they happen outside of you. It's something someone else says or does. It could even be couples. I'm just trying to think. An external trigger could even be something like you walk by a couple that's holding hands. Or maybe you see two people walk out of the temple together and they just look so happy and in love. These are all external triggers. Like I said, they happen outside of you. Internal triggers, these, like I said, are going to be thoughts or feelings that trigger anxiety. So some examples of thoughts that trigger anxiety could be, is he attractive enough? I'm just really not sure. Or, I don't know if that was the spirit or my own thoughts. I don't know what to do. Or maybe it's, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just made that joke. Some feelings that could be triggers are maybe you just wake up in the morning and you feel anxiety. and you don't know why you feel anxiety. And so you try to figure it out and you think, oh my goodness, it must be my relationship. Or maybe you eat something and you have a stomach ache. And your stomach ache is a trigger. You think, well, I have a stomach ache and it must mean that I feel anxious and that I'm in the wrong relationship. I know that was a big one for me. I used to get stomach aches a lot, and I didn't realize it was because of food allergies I had, but I would attribute it to my relationship, and I would get a stomach ache and I would think, oh my goodness, I must be in the wrong relationship because I feel so uneasy right now. Right? So these are all just examples of internal and external triggers, just anything that activates you and causes you to feel anxiety or doubt. Now, the next part of the urge cycle is the urge itself. Now, when we're talking about OCD, this is going to be like your compulsions. So some examples of urges. I'm actually going to do the next episode all about different kinds of urges, but a couple of examples just for today are maybe measuring or testing your feelings. So you get triggered, you think, I don't know if I feel enough. So you're going to measure, right? You feel anxious, you're going to measure. Okay, how do I feel right now? Do I feel in love enough? Or maybe your partner, or let's say your mom says, are you sure that that he is career oriented enough? You feel anxious, and so then you decide that you want to ask all of your friends their opinions. This is called decision outsourcing. It's another urge. And these urges are just anything that we do to try to get rid of that anxious feeling. One more example is comparing. So maybe you are at FHE, or you are just like at an activity, a church activity, and your best friend says, I am so in love and I just really feel like I hit the jackpot. I think my boyfriend is so attractive. And you go, oh my gosh, is my boyfriend attractive enough? And so you compare him to all of the other guys at church and you decide, yeah, I think he is attractive enough. Okay, phew. Now, the third part of the urge cycle is the result. So we have a trigger, we have urges, and then we have the result. And this result is either going to be that we feel relief or we feel more anxiety. So let's say that you felt the urge to compare your partner to everyone else at church, his attractiveness. Now, half the time, you're going to compare him and, well, not half the time. Now, some of the time, you're going to compare him and you're going to decide that he is more attractive than most of the other people at church. You're going to feel relief. That's the result. Feeling that relief teaches your brain that when you feel triggered, you should compare again next time because it makes you feel better. And it perpetuates this cycle. The problem is that the other times that you compare, you come to the realization that your partner is not as attractive as the rest of the people at church, and you must be in the wrong relationship, which causes you to feel more anxiety, more doubt, more panic, and it just perpetuates the cycle even more because now you feel more anxious, and so you feel like maybe if I compare in a different way or if I do something else, then I'll gain the relief I want. And so it just perpetuates this cycle. The cycle just keeps on going and going and going. So, trigger, urge, result. Trigger is what activates you, what makes you feel anxious. The urge is what you do to try to get rid of that anxiety. The result is however you feel after doing the urge. Part of the time it's going to be you feel better. Part of the time it's going to be you feel worse. When you feel better, it teaches your brain that you should do your urge again next time. And when you feel worse, your brain goes, oh my gosh, I have to feel better, so I should do my urges again because it worked a different time. You see how this cycle just goes around and around and around. There's no way to beat it. It's kind of like we get triggered, and so we decide to flip a coin. We're like, okay, heads or tails, heads or tails, heads or tails. If it's heads, I'm good, I can stay. If it's tails, it means I need to leave. We get heads half the time, we get tails half the time. But whenever we get tails, we go, I'll just flip it again and get heads, it's fine. And we just are stuck in this constant loop of flipping a coin. And what we want to do is learn how to step back away from the urge cycle, how to stop flipping the coin, and instead figure out why it's so important to us to flip the coin. Why do we want to play this game? I'm going to give you one more example. Let's say you get triggered. The trigger is let's just say that it's the feeling of anxiety. Let's say you go on a date and you don't feel very in love. Leads to anxiety. And so you go home and your urge is that you decide to Google relationship anxiety and relationship OCD to make sure that you have ROCD. Because your brain says, okay, if I have ROCD, that means I can stay. If I don't have ROCD, that means I can go. Or I should break up, right? So you Google it, and your brain finds enough evidence after doing this urge of Googling that you really do have ROCD, and you feel so much relief. So the next time you feel like you're not in love, you're like, okay, last time I Googled it, I felt better. So you go and you do your urge, you Google, do I have ROCD? But you decide, no, I really don't. I'm just in the wrong relationship. Your brain finds evidence for that. And then you feel more anxious and more doubtful. You see how it really is just this game of heads or tails. And like I said, instead of continuing to play this game, we want to take a step back. We want to understand why playing this game is so important to you, why your brain insists on playing the game. And the first thing that is going to be so important is learning how to observe your brain, learning how to get really curious about your brain. I'm going to do another podcast on techniques to distance ourselves from this urge cycle, right? How to kind of pause the urge cycle or things like that. But for now, the tool I want you really to focus on is going to be curiosity. Now, curiosity feels so much better to our brains than anxiety or judgment. And like I said, we just want to understand why your brain is so intent on doing these urge cycles. And we want to just get really curious about your brain. I like to think about it as me taking my brain out and just holding it in my hands in front of me. And I go, oh my goodness, I have this cute little brain. So interesting that it wants to do this urge cycle. I wonder why. And I just start to be really fascinated by my brain. I wonder what could be underneath this. I wonder why this matters so much to me. Maybe I think that my worth is wrapped up in having an attractive partner. Oh, that's so interesting. Or maybe I think that, I know for me, I was really concerned about doing the right thing in the eyes of God. And I thought that if I chose the wrong thing, my worth would decrease. Or maybe I wouldn't make it to the celestial kingdom. Whoa, That's so interesting. My brain it wants to be with God, and it wants to go to the celestial kingdom, and it wants to do what's right. But that's so interesting that my brain is taking this to the next level and is so obsessed about it that I'm doing an urge cycle. How fascinating is that? Or maybe you realize, oh, I learned growing up that I need to be with someone financially stable because I grew up in kind of a turbulent, financial household. Oh, that's so interesting. And really, at this point, we're not going to do anything to fix it. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to judge your brain. We're just going to be so fascinated and so interested with the reason that maybe your brain is spinning. Now, as you observe your brain, you might notice yourself frantically needing to get out of the urge cycle, frantically needing to fix whatever is going on. That's not the point of observing. When we observe, we really are just trying to understand and bring compassion to your brain. You might also notice yourself judging yourself that you do this, saying, well, I know that's not real. Like, I know that I don't have to be with an attractive partner to be worthy and to be good enough. But on some level, your brain thinks that's true, and we're just going to be fascinated by it. We really want to try not to judge it. Curiosity, like I said, feels so much better than judgment. The last thing you might notice is frustration and wondering how you're going to ever get out of this cycle. It might feel really overwhelming to you. And to that, I just want to point out that this is your brain looking for a new urge cycle. We're still trying to fix it instead of just being aware of it and understanding it. And like I said, there are things that we'll do to stop, like that I'll teach you to learn how to break out of this cycle, how to distance from it. But it can't come from an energy of trying to fix it. A lot of us with anxiety and ROCD, we're really good at fixing things, and that's part of the problem. We actually need to learn how to be compassionate with ourselves and how to learn how to feel uncomfortable emotions without fixing them. One other way I like to look at this is when we start to notice what's going on in our brain, when we start to notice these loops and be really curious about them, we start to watch our brain. Like I said, taking your brain out, looking at it, looking at what a good job it's trying to do. It becomes kind of like watching a race instead of being in the race. It creates space for us to look at it and understand it and start to distance ourselves from it. We start to not believe everything our brain tells us. We start to recognize that we're just trying to get rid of anxiety, that our brain is just trying to help us. And we become not so personally invested in everything our brain tells us. Just like I said, it's like watching a race instead of being in the race. Okay, everybody. So overall from today, we talked about what the urge cycle is, the trigger, the urge, and the result. And we talked about how bringing curiosity and awareness to this urge cycle is the first step to overcoming it. And my challenge for you this week is going to be to start noticing those urge cycles and bring a lot of curiosity instead of judgment to your brain and what it's doing. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to tune into the next episode because I am going to talk more about specific urges. I think you'll be so surprised by all of the things that are urges that we don't even realize we're doing every single day. So be sure to tune into that, and I will see you next time. Bye.